don't care if it's still August, school is officially over, therefore it is spooky season, so I'm gonna tell you a spooky story. This is true and this happened to me. So you're gonna need a little bit of context before I jump right into the story. My grandparents on my mother's side live out in the country in Oklahoma. When I was younger, we would go out there and visit them frequently, at least once a year. This particular time, we're going to visit them. I can't remember exactly how old I was. I want to say I was like 10, somewhere between the ages of like 8 and 11. So we go up there for a small family, like close family reunion type of thing. I should also mention that this house is old. If that wasn't already obvious, this house is old. It's old as my grandparents. It's older than them. So at this reunion, everyone's outside. They're grilling, barbecuing, sitting, chit-chatting, talking, whatever. It was starting to get a little bit chilly, so I was like, I'm gonna go inside and get a jacket and I'll be right back. So I run inside. Mind you, nobody else is inside the house. Everybody's outside getting their barbecue on, okay? I run inside up the stairs to my room to grab a jacket. In this room, there's the closet, and then next to the closet right here is a little door for a crawl space. I grab my jacket, I turn around. The crawl space is open. The door is cracked open. I'm like, oh, okay, let me just go and close that really quick. I go over, I open it a little bit because I'm like, what's in there? Not expecting there to be anything in there. I open it, and there's a staircase. A long staircase going up. So what does 10-year-old me do? I go up the staircase. Something was just speaking to me, telling me that this door was open for a reason and that I'm supposed to go up in here. So I get to the top, there's another door. I open the door into this grand hallway. It's like white and gold marble columns, but it's a long hallway. And there's a bunch of doors going down, and then another door at the very end. Immediately, I'm like, what is this? Where am I? And a little freaked out, obviously. Something was calling me to go to the door at the very end of the hallway. Forget all the other doors, go to the one at the end of the hallway. So I start walking down this very long hallway. And all of these doors are shut, right? And then I feel like something's watching me. I look and I see further down the hallway, one of these doors on the left side, an old woman, a very creepy old woman, is peeking her head out of the door and watching me. And then I would see her pop out of a different door and be looking at me, and then a different door and then be looking at me as I kept progressing down the hallway. Finally, I reached the end of the hallway to the door at the end, and I was so compelled to open it. So I opened it. And I left the door open. When I entered the room, I left the door open, okay? And it's a complete change of environment. The hallway was white and gold, marble columns, like very clean, very, I don't know, elegant. Walk into this room, it's like your basic old dusty attic. Boxes, spider webs, it's dark, creaky wood. And there's a circular window across from me at the other end of the room. The same exact circular window that you can see from the front yard where everyone is outside. So I walk over, I look out the window, and I can see everybody down there, but it's like there's a weird filter over it, where it's in like black and white, and they're all skeletons. Everyone's there, moving around like normal, grilling, laughing, playing, but they're skeletons. And as I'm registering this, processing it, the door behind me slams shut, and I turn around, and the creepy old lady is standing behind one of those piles of boxes, looking at me with the most sinister, it was the most evil I've felt in my life. I ran faster than I've ever ran in my entire life. Out of that room, back down the hall. I did not look back a single time. Back out the original door, back down the staircase, and I shut the crawl space door behind me. I grabbed my jacket off of the bed where I had set it before I went up there, and I put it on, walked downstairs and back outside like nothing happened. The next time that I come over to visit my grandparents, about a year later, I have not told my grandma this story. I've not told her anything. I come over, I go to sleep in this room. I'm already a little bit apprehensive about it because of the previous events. I step into the room and I see that the crawl space is now boarded and nailed shut with blankets over it as well. They boarded that up. And then just recently, a couple years ago, I actually told my grandma about this, and all she does is go, yeah. Goodbye.
This happened in 2016, back when I was in 5th grade. If you remember that year, you probably remember all the killer clown sightings that were happening around the country. At the time, it was all over the news and social media. Most adults thought it was just some dumb trend or prank, but for young kids, it was actually pretty scary. It was a normal day at school. I went to an elementary school in a quiet suburban area where I still live. Nothing weird ever really happens here. It was around 1 p.m. I'm guessing, because it was closer to the end of the school day. We were in class working on some random assignment, and the classroom was quiet except for a few people whispering. Then, one of the students in my class suddenly said out loud, "There's a clown outside." I still remember her high-pitched voice as she said it. Some of us stood up and looked toward the window, and yeah, there really was a clown outside. He was standing just a few feet away from the window, facing our classroom directly. He was wearing a baggy, dirty red and yellow clown suit and had white face paint with black around the eyes. He was smiling and staring in at us with this big fake grin. After a few seconds, he started waving slowly. Some of the kids thought it was funny and laughed. Others were clearly freaked out. Our teacher, Mrs. Riker, walked over to the window, looked at the guy for a second, and then said through the glass, loud and annoyed, "Excuse me, classes are in session, you need to get out of here." The clown didn't react at all. He just kept standing there, smiling and waving. Mrs. Riker told us all to sit back down and said she was calling the front office. She picked up the corded classroom phone and then walked into the hallway with it and spoke quietly. The phones in the classrooms were always next to the door, so that's how she was able to walk outside the room with it. She came back in moments later and then hung up. She walked over to the window and shut all the blinds after she saw that the man in the clown costume was still there, doing the same creepy waving motion, smiling, and general clownish mannerisms. Not even 2 minutes later, the principal's voice came over the loudspeaker. "Staff, please get your classrooms into lockdown formation." There was a sense of urgency in the voice that, looking back, was probably to alert the teachers that it wasn't a drill without causing all the kids to go into a panic. That's when it got serious. Mrs. Riker rushed to turn off the lights and told us all to get under our desks. She pulled the door shut and locked it. Everyone was quiet. Some kids were giggling, but others looked scared. I was definitely scared. We stayed like that for what felt like forever, but it was actually about 30 minutes. Nobody knew what was happening, but eventually, the principal came back on the loudspeaker and said the lockdown was over and that the situation had been handled. Apparently, school security had confirmed that the clown was gone. They didn't tell us anything else. Classes went on like normal for the rest of the day. It felt weird. Everyone was talking about it during dismissal, but the teachers didn't say much. Then, after school, I was walking home with my friend Chris. We lived in the same neighborhood, just a few blocks away. While we were walking, a couple of 5th grade girls behind us suddenly ran past us, looking panicked. One of them said, "There's someone in the woods." We stopped and turned around. Behind the school, there's a small patch of trees. It's not deep woods or anything, just enough to separate the school from the street behind it. And standing just barely out of view, near the edge of the woods, was the clown again. Same dirty outfit, same painted face. He was half hidden by the trees, but he was clearly waving, and he wasn't just waving at random. He was doing it slowly, directly at the girls who had just passed us, like he was trying to call them over. Chris and I didn't say anything, we just ran. I don't know what happened after that, but I told my parents as soon as I got home. They called the school, and later I heard from another kid that the police were called again and patrolled the area, but they never found anyone. To this day, nobody knows who that guy was, and I don't know if he was just trying to scare some kids or if he were planning something worse. But what freaks me out the most is that he came back after the lockdown, and he waited, hidden in the trees, watching kids go home.
This photo is of the Cincinnati Crawler. It was taken by a family who caught him in their home in 1974, but he escaped shortly afterwards. So in 1974, the Johnson family in Cincinnati noticed a couple weird things happening in their home. The 14-year-old daughter, Claire, would complain about seeing glowing eyes outside of her window at night. And then one night, the youngest son, Timmy, was laying in bed in the dark when he felt the family dog jump up onto his bed. But when he went to go pet it, it was not the dog. It was the Crawler, who police still believe was responsible for the disappearance of 4 other boys in the area. Some believe that he was an escaped convict, while others actually believe that he was the victim of human experiments happening in the area that may have been conducted by the family's dad. Claire snapped this photo of him before he escaped, but he was never found since.
This happened during my freshman year of high school. I'm 21 now, and I still think about it all the time. I went to a public school in a pretty average suburban town. We did lockdown drills maybe once every couple months, so when this one started, that's exactly what I thought it was, just a drill. It was a Wednesday, 4th period. I remember because it was earth science, and we had just finished a pop quiz. I was putting my stuff into my backpack when the loudspeaker came on and said, "This is a lockdown. Lock all doors, lights off, stay quiet." At first, nobody panicked. Our teacher, Mrs. Chen, sighed, got up, and locked the door like usual. She turned off the lights and told us all to get into the corner of the room, away from the door. Everyone was laughing a little and whispering like it was no big deal. But then we heard a second announcement. Same voice, but it sounded different. More rushed. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." That's when the room went silent. My teacher didn't say a word. She just motioned for everyone to stay down and keep quiet. I could tell even she was nervous now. She kept checking her phone, and we could hear faint, distant police sirens outside. A few minutes passed, then we heard something from the hallway. Footsteps. Slow ones, and not in a hurry like a cop or a teacher, just one person walking. They stopped right in front of our classroom. We were all staring at the door. Nobody breathed. Then came a knock. Not loud, just a soft, slow knock, 3 times. Nobody moved. Then the doorknob turned. They tried to open it, but it was locked, obviously, but they kept trying. Not aggressively, just turning the handle back and forth like they were checking. And then, a male's voice on the other side said, "This is just a drill. You can open the door now." We all collectively looked at Mrs. Chen, and then she looked back at all of us, put her finger up to her lips, and shook her head no. The person on the other side of the door kept knocking and trying the doorknob, and eventually the knocks got more aggressive as the voice of the man on the other side kept saying hello. Our classroom was on the first floor in the science wing. I can't tell you how much I was shaking in my shoes. I know even if all the other kids didn't want to admit it, they were as well. Eventually, the knock stopped, and the man must have walked away. We heard nothing after that for a solid 5 minutes. Total silence, apart from the police sirens outside getting louder. It felt like forever. Then, someone down the hall screamed. It was a girl. Just one scream and then nothing. A couple of people in my class started crying quietly. Honestly, it was the girls. Someone whispered that they saw a shadow move past the little glass window on the classroom door on several occasions. Each time anyone spoke, even quietly, Mrs. Chen gave a stern but quiet shh. Another 5 or 10 minutes passed. Then, finally, we heard the sound of police officers shouting from down the hallway, telling everyone to stay in place. They were going room to room, and when they finally knocked on our door and unlocked it with a key, Mrs. Chen didn't even move until they showed their badges. We were all escorted out in a line, past other classes doing the same thing. There were cop cars everywhere outside, even a SWAT van. I didn't see anything too crazy, but I did see one officer leading a guy in cuffs out of the building. He looked about 30.
not a student, pale, long hair, wearing dark clothes. Later that day, we found out that some criminal had slipped into the school through one of the side doors during a delivery. That side door was right by the end of the science wing. Apparently, he was mentally unstable and had something in his backpack, but I don't know if it was a weapon or not. They didn't tell us much. They just said nobody was hurt and everything was under control. But I swear, I'll never forget that knock at the door. The way he turned the handle, the scream down the hall. It didn't feel like everything was under control at all.